This podcast contains spoilers, explicit language, and is not meant for anyone younger than 13. Do not harass any of the names mentioned in this episode. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to John vs. Film. And I'm going to be honest with you, this is going to be a pretty short one because, spoiler alert, I didn't really care much for this movie. So, before we start, what is the movie we're talking about? Oh, well, it's simple. It is Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon City, which was directed and written by Johannes Roberts. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or wrong. Probably butchered it. Apologies. But yes, this is the Resident Evil movie that came out last year in 2021, and I am watching this for the video game month. And yeah, as you could probably tell from the beginning, I didn't really care for this movie. Now, before we go into overall thoughts, let's get this settled out. How it goes with John versus Film. I start off with 5 things I like, then I go into 5 things I dislike, and then I give my overall thoughts. And yeah, this is just gonna be a short one because, well, the likes especially, they're gonna be short. I have plenty. I have dislikes that, well, let's just say, I'll probably talk more about the dislikes than I do the likes. Well, but anyway, before I go get more ahead of myself, let's finally talk about the likes. And the first things first is I like the sets. I thought it had pretty decent set designs. I like the RAPD, or the RCPD, you know, the police department. Is it RCPD or RIP? RIPD. I know it has to be the RC. RIPD is a Ryan Reynolds movie. Yeah. Oh, it's just the RPD. Yep. So I was wrong in both cases. It's just RPD. I don't know why I was. Well, I was thinking Raccoon City Police, but it's just Raccoon Police Department. But yeah, anyway, I liked the RPD. That said, I liked how it looked like the game. Resident Evil 2 remake. Like the gate and the sign. I like that. Um, Spencer Mansion that looked pretty good. So overall, set design pretty solid. Um, I like some of the references. Like the zombie head turn, just being like how we first see a zombie in Resident Evil, 1 and 2, which are iconic, slowly looking up. Um, yeah, uh, just some nicer references to the games. It was cool. I like the out of place music, not because I like the songs that they used, but I liked how out of place it was. Like any way you want it being played as the RPD chief is getting shot at, you know, and then the He-Man song, meme song, the hi yeah yeah. They also played that in the trailer. That was played in a scene, and it was kind of just a weird like, okay, why is this even in there? Here, what's the point? But yeah, I like the music. I also felt it was out of place. Um, I will say the movie did have a good initial hook, or at least an intriguing one, where I was like, okay, I'm curious to see where this is going. It introduced, kind of a mystery of, you know, with Chris and Claire Redfield's origins, with the orphanage and this mysterious girl, in rags and stuff. And yeah, it was just like, okay, this is interesting, I want to see where this goes, but spoiler alert, it doesn't even really go anywhere. Especially not with the girl and, kind of rags and with that mask and all that stuff. Creepy mask. And the last thing I like was the monster designs. I really like the hellhounds, the liquor, um, monster, whatever. Oh yeah, by the way, spoilers, but let's be honest. Do you really care about raccoons? Welcome to Raccoon City spoilers. I don't think so. But anyway, I just want to get the name right for this one monster. G, the G virus monster. Is that just what it's called? Yeah, it's just called G. But I like the design for the monsters. Essentially, they look like they're from the video games. So I think that was a good, they did a good job, representing, you know, how it looked from the game and adapting it to the movie. So I thought there was, that was, good job. And William Birkin, his form as G, it looked good. So yeah, that's about it for my likes. As you can probably tell, being only a little over 7 minutes into this podcast, and I'm already done with my likes. You can probably tell that the dislikes they're not they're not good, and I'm sorry to say. So my first thing about this is I thought the writing sucked. I did not enjoy the writing. Um, Especially the characters and dialogue. It's just the dialogue felt so unnatural, and the characters, a lot of them were pretty unlikable. I didn't really care for most of the characters, which is kind of a bad thing to have in a horror movie. Or I don't know if it was trying to be a horror movie. See, that's also that's a weird thing about the writing of this movie. It's like it wants to be horror, but it also wants to acknowledge all the goofy, B movie stuff, from the games. But it's failing spectacularly bad. But not even a really fun way, just a very uninteresting way. And it's because, again, a lot of the dialogue felt unnatural as well. And again, I just couldn't really care for these characters. And I think the writing has, suffers a lot of, from a problem of telling instead of showing, which that's not a good thing. Like, for example, you got this, Claire riding with the trucker that's in the beginning of Resident Evil 2. That's the one that crashes in Raccoon City and sets that fire playing game. But anyway, Claire's hitchhiking and the trucker is rambling on about, oh, how bad Raccoon City is. And he's just telling us, how bad the city is. And it's like, this is supposed to be a visual medium. You don't have to, shove in our faces, and have characters tell us, oh, Raccoon City's such an awful place. Oh, it's so bad. Oh, Umbrella's leaving it. Without Umbrella, it is you know, a waste time. You know, there's just, you gotta show that, it doesn't have the same impact as you telling. Like, um, would Yojimbo be the same if, uh, Sanjiro, he comes in and random people just telling him, oh, welcome to this town. Yeah, it really sucks. There's a lot of crime, you know, like just right off the bat, or no, it wouldn't. And what Sandro does is that it shows you that there was something up with this town before you can find out it's, there's two gangs fighting each other. We get that dog, carrying a decapitated hand, or a hand that's cut off. I don't know if that's how you would call it decapitated, but amputated. I don't know. But you get the gist. You get, some semblances, that there's something wrong with this town before, you get, told. Here, though, it's just you're being told Raccoon City sucks, and it's not the same impact. Um, a lot of the actors felt miscast. Well, like there's some exceptions. I think Ravi Amell as Chris, that was pretty good. Um, and oh yeah, by the way, I'm on my second thing. I just like there we go. Neil McDonough as William Birkin. He was good. I guess I don't really have any strong feelings for Kaya Scodelario. Scodelario. I butchered that name. I know I did. Um, as Claire. Donald Logue as Chief Irons. He was serviceable, I guess. Um, just not very memorable. But the other character, actors, I guess the two, like the exceptions of, I liked Robbie Amell and Neil McDonough as William Burke, as Chris Redfield, William Burke. You know, I thought they were good. Everybody else, kind of just either did not have, wasn't right for the character or was completely miscast. Like even Jogaya. I'm I'm a butcher of names. So what can I say? But Avon was not Leon. That was 100% a miscast. You did not feel like Leon at all. So you end up feeling like a lot of these characters do not feel like the characters from the games. And that leads me to my next point, which is that it fails to properly adapt both RE1 and RE2. And again, especially with Leon and Wesker. And I'll even throw in Jill Valentine because I did not like Jill in this movie. She seemed too much like a jerk, a dick. I can't really call her the B word. I will get canceled to oblivion but that's assuming anyone listens to my podcast, which nobody does. But no, I didn't like her, She's supposed to be super cop, but she just came off as pretty arrogant. I didn't really care for her. Um, but yeah, Leon was definitely not Leon. Everybody treated Leon like he was an idiot, and Leon sometimes acted like way too much of an idiot. Like, when Chief Irons, he's leaving, trying to get out of the city, pretty much like, "Hey, Leon, you're in charge now," and Leon's like, "What? What's going on? Wait, I don't think that's supposed to be happening, Captain. Captain, what am I supposed to do?" It was like, and there was this whole thing of him shotting, another cop or something like that in the past, and everybody like shits on Leon in this movie. It fucking sucks. You know, it felt very much the character of Leon from the games was being very mistreated. This was definitely not Leon from the games. Not even close. I wasn't expecting, RE4 Leon, but Not even RE2 Leon was this naive, idiotic, and shit like that. Just he was acted way too much like an idiot, and there's a line in the movie where Chris is like, "Hey Leon, I didn't expect you to be here," and Leon says something, it's like, "Yeah, neither did I," and it's just like, yeah, it makes it feel like you shouldn't have been in the movie at all, especially the way it was handled. Um, and then Wesker, um, look, here's a confession of mine: I have not beaten Resident Evil 1 or any games where are any of the Resident Evil games that have Wesker as, the main antagonist. I have been RE2 Remake, RE3 Remake. I've played a lot of RE4, but never finished it. I've beaten RE7, RE Village. Yeah, that's sums it up right there pretty much. And I love those the Resident Evil games. I'm looking forward to playing the rest. But my point's still same. I I guess what I'm trying to say is like even though I haven't really seen Wesker's story for myself, I've seen snippets and clips, and I know he has a reputation, and Wesker is supposed to be kind of this very badass, intimidating villain who doesn't care about others. Here, though, he doesn't. He very much cares about others. He didn't have this intimidating, yeah, I'm a badass look, and yeah, he like that. It was not Wesker. He didn't act like Wesker whatsoever. And yeah, and this movie failed, by trying to adapt both Resident Evil 1 and 2 at the same time, that was already doomed to fail. Like right from the get-go, you were never going to properly adapt Resident Evil by trying to smush in, two games like stories into one movie. It doesn't work out. So you get just these very, cut off like pieces and bits of the games, into this, movie just poorly placed together. And that leads me to my next dislike, which is it was too cluttered and unfocused because it was trying to switch between the plots of Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. It, you know, it couldn't maintain a focus of trying to make a good movie or at least an entertaining movie because it was too focused on switching between game 1 and game 2 of which story we're talking about. And weird thing enough though, at the beginning of this movie it didn't really had this problem because it was telling some like new events, like new stories like Chris and Claire's, time at the orphanage. Chris and Claire, you know, reuniting at Chris's house, stuff like that, they weren't always, great, it still had the same issue of the quality, the writing. But I was more invested at, the first half when they were telling new stuff that I was like, huh, this is not like the games. I'm interested. It's I think that should have been the direction where they could have gone with, to do something different in the games, and focus on, say, Claire and Chris's, relationship. But that's not what happens because of how Resident Evil 1 and 2 works. Chris is in Resident Evil 1 and Claire is in Resident Evil 2. So in the movie, the RE1 plot has Chris in it, and RE2 plot has Claire in it. They are separated from each other for most of the movie. Uh, so we don't get that focus on the relationship that really felt like that should have been the focus of the movie. And then finally, if by the end, it felt very unsatisfied. Oh, um, like a lot of the plots, like the girl, at the orphanage, she comes in later, and saves, Leon and Claire from the liquor. But what happens is, she just helps them, get to where they need to go. But we don't really get to find out much about her origins. There was an intrigue, like we know that from being told by Claire that the orphanage, they were experimenting on kids and all that stuff, you know, but they don't really go much into it, and we don't really find anything new about this woman who's been living at the orphanage for all these years, you know, and who Claire interacted with when she was a child. It's just that felt unresolved. Um, William Birkin was pretty much missing throughout most of the movie, and he was, set up as the antagonist, and that's a problem. When you set someone up as the antagonist at the beginning of the movie, end up him being missing throughout most of the movie, only for him to show up, kind of in that end part to set up his, appearance as G, you know. And even then, when he's like in his, not final form from the game, but when he's like more monster than human, it's not Claire, it's not Chris who are the ones to make the final blow with the rocket launcher, you know, which, by the way, it should have been either Chris or Claire because they've both had, attachment to William Birkin. No, it's Leon. Leon's the one to take out, you know, this, William Birkin, a character he has never interacted with before. It's so unsatisfying. And also they have, Claire, the gang saving William's daughter, but that happens at the end. So in Resident Evil 2, you get this, Claire interacting with William Birkin's daughter and saving her, and they have, this story, in the game they have this, entire story where they're trying to discover, things about the origin, about Project G, and all that stuff. There's, a mystery, that, you get some sisterly, relationship sisterly relationship formed between the two of them. That doesn't happen here because it happens too late in the movie, and she's just like, "Oh, yep, we're saving the kid. Yep, this is homage to remember this happened in the game. Yeah, we're doing it here right now. So she's with us. Woo, we saved her." But she doesn't. The daughter doesn't feel like a character in the movie, and yeah, it's just so unsatisfactory. And the mid credits, it was really lame and definitely sequel nostalgia bait. So the thing about Wesker in this movie, he did for pretty much the entire movie, he wasn't wearing his sunglasses. You know, which, I mean, that's a fine if you don't want to do it, but don't make it so. Oh, we need to give him a reason for he has to wear sunglasses. Which, for the record, nobody has to have a reason to wear sunglasses. Like, um, by the way, I'm recording this before I record any of the Sonic, movie stuff. So like this is the first movie I'm recording for Video Game Month. I'm just getting the worst out of the way. Um, but yeah, I guess with like Sonic 1, you got Robotnik played by Jim Carrey, and they do that sequel baity thing with him looking like Eggman at the mid credit scene with the bald head, the mustache, and you know the glass, and the goggles, you know. But while that's still kind of like lame as sequel baity, at the same time, it's not really the same because you really liked Jim Carrey's performance as Robotnik in the rest of the movie. You've got a sense that, yeah, this is the wacky genius trying to take down the blue hedgehog. You got that sense from Jim Carrey's performance as Robotnik. Here, though, you don't get that this guy is Wesker. So when they do the whole glasses thing, at the mid-credit scene, it's a fail. It is complete fail, and it's not the same. And then it's like, oh, he gets saved by Ada Wong, which, by the way, she's a major character in Resident Evil 2. She's part of Leon's story, and yeah, it was lame, like just complete sequel baity. And let's just go with my overall thoughts because I'm really tired of talking about this movie. I simply don't care about, you know. So yeah, overall, while on the surface it seemed like it was going to be a more faithful, adaptation to the source material, that sadly wasn't the case. The movie tried to smush RE1 and 2 together, and the result was something more sloppy than a Jill sandwich, and ultimately leaves a bad taste in your mouth. However, the worst crime of this movie was that it was boring. It's not made for fans of Resident Evil or for anyone new to the Resident Evil series. Just play the games instead. And yeah, that's it for this um episode. I don't know where I'm going to be placing this episode, so I'm not going to talk about what I'm going to be doing next um for next week's episode. So, other than that though, thank you for listening. I'm sorry I was very uninterested in this movie. It's just I wish it was more offensively bad where I could just rant about it, but overall it was boring. Nothing's fun about a boring movie, you know, and that really is a shame. But yeah, anyway, social media links down below. Follow me there. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, like, dislike, comment. You know, I could really use some more subscribers and views. Help me out there. Um, and yeah, this podcast is also available on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean.com, and Podcast Addict. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have an excellent day. At least a more entertaining day than this movie was for me. Anyway, take care.